Hi and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, we are going to answer the question, did I actually knit a sweater in 3 days? I am talking about the 3-Day Sweater by Lærke Bagger. It can be found in her latest book, Knit It Out. And I'm also going to share with you some updates on some of my projects, as well as a little update on my knitting mojo. I am very excited to share with you an awesome hack. So if you have an iPhone or an Android phone, I have an awesome hack that's gonna help you so much with your knitting. So stick around for that. Grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what I am wearing. I am wearing the 3-Day Sweater. This is a pattern, like I said, by Lærke Bagger. It's from the book Knit It Out. And I started this on December 29th. And we'll talk about how long it took me in a moment. But I wanted to share with you my experience. So I used all scraps for this sweater. I used from previous hats that I had knit and sweaters that I had knit, some leftover yarn that I had just had too much, or one of the sweaters I made last year, I decided not to put sleeves on, so I had some yarn from that, but it was all scraps, all leftover yarn for this sweater. And I'm so happy with how it turned out. I will give you a little bit of a play-by-play in a moment, but basically it's found in this book, Knit It Out by Lærke Bagger. There's kind of 2 techniques I chose from the book to use. And if you want to see kind of some examples of this sweater, here is some flat lay ones. She has, it looks like a skirt, maybe a couple of dresses. And so basically you just kind of go wild, whatever you want. It's a very loose gauge sweater. It's knit from the bottom up, and then you split for sleeves, do some raglan shaping, and a little short rows in the neck. And then the second technique is the inner child sweater. This one is very similar, and we're gonna kind of talk about the differences so that if you want to make one of these sweaters, you kind of know the difference. So let's look at my sweater together. Again, this is the 3-Day Sweater, and I did a couple of things. I chose to make sure that I had holes so I could have extra long sleeves and be able to slip my thumbs through because, I don't know, I like it. It's kind of, I think it's kind of fun. And then I chose to put some holes randomly and did a kind of a random yarn selection. I did, however, add a little bit of calm to this project, I feel, by keeping mostly dark colors, mostly black, and then also trying to match the sleeves the best I could. So they're not at all exactly the same. They're meant to be like close enough so that if you glance at me, you're not gonna think they're mismatched. But like the amount of rows I did per stripe and all that are definitely not similar. So let's start here. I cast on day 1. I cast on and knit about 6 to 7 inches. And I will say that about that point, you don't want to knit the sweater anymore. And it's not that that's taken that long, but you definitely have to push through that feeling. So if you are going to knit this, you're going to hit a point where you're like, that's what she was talking about. Stick with it, because once you just get over that first little hump of what am I doing right now with my life, it's gonna be great. Okay, so knit bottom up, you knit a really long tube because when you go to put it on, it stretches out quite a bit. Now, it was a little bit difficult for me to pick the size. I think I ended up going with the 3rd size. I actually wonder if I can look and see if I can figure it out. But I think I ended up going with the 3rd size, and I didn't really have too much rhyme or reason for that. I could have knit the 2nd size, but I'm always so paranoid that something's gonna be like too tight that I will hate it so much. And so let's see. Yeah, I think I did the 3rd size. I can tell you by cast on amount. Nope, I lied. I did the 4th size. So I made the 4th size, And so I could have made the 3rd size for sure. I just was like not wanting, and let me tell you the difference. So the 3rd size, again, this is like this sweater laid flat on the ground, not stretched at all. So it's a really like weird way of measuring, and you have to realize that it's going to stretch so much, and the sweater wants negative ease. So laid flat, knit, or measured straight across for a size 3 was 47 to 55 centimeters, and for a 4 it was 50 to 58. So I just went with the size 4 because, again, I didn't want it to be too tight. I felt like as I was knitting it, I was going to try it on. So I knit again like that 6-7 inches, then I tried it on just to make sure that I could like get it on over my head, or how, like, just pull it on, and that seemed fine. So I just decided to like just go. And you knit this, I knit mine on a size US 11, I want to say. This is something to note. If you are in the United States and you are knitting this, it took me a while to figure this out, and I think I figured it out on her last book. The needle size is in millimeters. So you need to remember that when you're picking your size, because I think it just says needle size 9 or something, but you need US 11. So I did that, knit the tube and put it aside. Then I knit the sleeves flat. I questioned this because I thought, why would I want to knit the sleeves flat when I can easily knit them in the round? And I'm faster knitting in the round than I am knitting flat, and I will complain about it in a moment, but knitting flat is not my favorite thing right now. So I was like, can I skip this part? She actually took the time to put in the book, like, knit it flat, because I don't think knitting it in the round, like, it's finicky and all these things, which yes, it would have been. I also think it kind of adds a little structure to your sweater. It's probably, I mean, it's not entirely obvious, but like you can kind of see a little bit of where I guess this is that's the, what do we call it? The hem? No, the seam. That's the seam for the sleeve. And like, I guess you could probably do it. I just decided it's such a quick thing that if I would have knit it in the round and it had a problem because I'm trying to do it so quickly, I didn't want to have to backtrack, so I just decided to do it how she said to do it. And then at that time I decided, because I'd had part of the body done, I was gonna try to match. I didn't match the sleeves to the body. It's a little, in some places, kind of. Like where the placement for this stripe is a little similar, but it's not the same. I just thought matching sleeves together rather than and the body, I felt like that might have been too matchy. It looks similar. Sorry, tangent. It's been one of those days. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that the sleeves were long enough that I could do a little hook my thumb in one of the holes. The holes are just a yarn over, like an easy regular eyelet hole. I wanted to make sure I had some for my thumbs, because I felt like I love long sleeves, and I thought I would, with the way the sweater is, wear it like this. So I'm happy that I added those like where they are. You can, if you're like, ooh, I don't know. I basically did like an inch or so of knitting, and then just did about a row of yarn overs. I will say that one kind of tip I have is you have your selvage stitch, and then I did 3 stitches, and then I started my whole row. And then I just put them randomly. The sleeves don't match in terms of holes by any means. I just decided to put, like, there's a whole cluster here. This one has a row. They're just kind of random. And I kind of went off, man, I'm bored doing this, I'm gonna add a hole. Like, I didn't have any sort of rhyme or reason as far as the sleeves went. For the body, I decided that I didn't want holes here because I thought that could be weird. And I didn't want a weird hole placement. So I basically decided at a certain point. I just wasn't gonna do holes until like the top part. So I did that. I definitely have some areas, like these have a lot more holes. So again, just to show, like this is a lot more stretchy with all the holes than not. So again, if you were concerned on size, you could just make a meshier fabric. Like there's a lot of ways to play with it. Another thing that I did think was worth of note and something to look out for is, okay, so this part right here, I wanted to tell you guys about. You basically start doing short rows here for the neck shaping. You drop some, or you bind off some stitches and start doing short row, or not short rows. You just start knitting back and forth, sorry. But you have this little funny stitch situation where it got stretched out. So I'm actually gonna go back and on the back, probably just do a stitch or two just to like hide that. Now this is me being overly precious with it because it is kind of like a chaotic knit and I could do nothing, but I thought I would leave that to show you. And then on the neckband, it has no finishing. So there's no finishing on the sleeves, there's no finishing on the bottom. You basically just like start knitting in a stockinette and continue, and there's no special finishing details. If you wanted, you could pick up and knit a neckband. You would want to keep in mind that you don't want it to be too tight or you're not going to be able to wear it. And you could also do a I-cord finish if you wanted, but again, you want to be very careful because you don't want it to be too tight. So one thing I would recommend maybe doing if you wanted to do like an I-cord, like pick up and do an I-cord, I would consider picking up a few stitches in one stitch just to make sure that it's not going to be too tight going over your head. To answer the question, did I actually get this done in enough time? So day one, I knit the 6 to 7 inches. I tried it on. I finally was like, whew, good. It's the right size. I'm feeling good about this knit. I'm going to keep going. And that was when the excitement hit. But day one, I probably started late afternoon and that's all I did. Day two was really the day. So day two, I knit a ton of the body and I think one part starting a sleeve. And the way that I was measuring, so the body I did do the long, she tells you to knit a really long tube and I did do what she said. But for the sleeve, she also says to do it like a certain length. But how I was also checking my sleeve length, because this is just how I did it, I knew that my body of my sweater was going to go like pretty high up to my armpit. And so when I was knitting the sleeve, I literally just kept laying it on my arm to see like, oh, I'm here. Okay, just keep going. So that's kind of how I knit it. And then I just counted the rows and decided to do the same thing on the other side. Now, because you are knitting very like, this is a recipe more than a pattern, I would say, but because you are having very like, gauge is changing a lot. Some places I have like lace weight, some is worsted, some is two fingering held together. I have like a lot of different things going on in this sweater that you really kind of have to play it by feel and intuition, I would say. I also just tied knots in all of the kind of yarn changes. So I did leave longer tails. I'm gonna have to go back and trim them all because I noticed today when I was putting them on, I kind of tucked them all in, but there was some like just sticking out because again, those holes are not hiding anything from anyone. I've got a string. That's what I mean. So those just need to be trimmed. Everything's been kind of like tucked into place, but I mostly just did knots. If I were to knit this again, which I probably would, I think it would be a really fun project to do at the end of the year like I did, but I could have chosen to save all of my yarn scraps from the year and made like that final sweater like after Christmas. I think that would have been really fun. I really highly recommend a sparkle here or there. I think it adds a lot to the sweater. I think it makes it super interesting. Also doing like little pops of mohair here and there, I think is fun. I didn't do it throughout the whole sweater. I did mostly hold, I had some leftover alpaca 1 by Issayer from one of my sweaters this year. So I decided not to knit sleeves, and so I had like leftover yarn from that. And I did have that heavily represented in this sweater because, again, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but it will be great for this because it'll keep the black main color kind of going. So I like how it turned out. I would definitely knit it again. I think it's fun. It's like a very grungy looking sweater to me. I think the sparkles add a nice little touch, and yeah. So again, I kept mostly a dark palette. I had some sparkle, some silver with like a holographic sparkle. Unfortunately, these two sparkles I think are by Ella Rae, and I don't think this yarn is like, I don't think it is in existence anymore, but there's plenty of sequined yarns out there that you could use. I used them in my No Limit sweater that I made this year, also by Lærke Bagger, and so because I liked just the like every so often. So this is a sparkle, like just every so often, throw it in there. And then I did one kind of pop of color, which was this fuchsia. This is the colorway, I think it's called Soiree, and I think it's by Magpie Fiber. It's a really nice mohair, I have to say. I used it to make my Birds of a Feather shawl a while ago, and I had just a tiny bit left. But one thing I really loved about their mohair in particular is it's very fluffy. Like some mohairs are very like pieces of hair coming off of them. This one has almost smaller mohairs, and I really liked it a lot. And it also really did nicely in the sweater. When it shows up, I also have kind of a navy next to it because I thought those were like very nice together. But yeah. So, and I also had La Bien-Aimé's Winterfell mohair. I had to buy this from a D-stash from someone because I was finishing my Aureliano sweater this year and I ran out of yarn. And so I used this, so it was nice to be able to add it to this sweater. But I really think it would be fun, again, to like pick yarns from all of your knits, especially if you have a very solid, strong color palette, or even if you don't, maybe your knitting is like all over the place. It would be really cool still because it's not meant to be a serious knit. Like using the kind of inner child, which we'll talk about the difference in just a minute, but using that like technique, which is basically like change the yarn whenever you feel like it. There are no rules, add a hole, like do whatever you want. And having that like option is really, really nice. So if you want to do the inner child sweater, some of the differences are it's a little bit more structured knit. This one's 3 days. It's not meaning for you to be precious by any means about anything. You're just adding however you want, whenever you want. The world is your oyster. There are no rules. Do whatever you want. Similar to the inner child sweater, main differences that I've noticed are that it does have finishing. So you have cuffs, you have a hem, you have a nice neckband, and that all really does finish it and make it slightly more elevated. If you have that too, it can ground your knit. So if you're like, do I knit the inner child or do I knit the 3-day sweater? If you, like I have a pretty solid cohesion going on with all the yarns, but if I just were to use all of the yarns that I had from projects all year long, it would have been kind of wild. And so I probably would have gone to the inner child sweater to kind of ground out like what was happening in this. So I hope that helps as far as like choosing between the two. I think they're very similar. I wouldn't say either is really lends itself to a beginner, only because you really need to know sweater construction because it's, again, more like a recipe. It's a suggestion. It's a sweater suggestion. It does give like cast on amounts and stuff like that, but could be different for everybody that it is nice to have some knowledge. Also, I did use like the Raglan suggestion of the rate of decrease, which she does have it. It seems like a big amount of rows, but it does make sense because you need this to be deep enough. So I'm happy with how the sweater turned out. I'm happy with, like, I felt like I didn't struggle too much with this one. I can't remember if I said this or not. So day 2, I finished part of a sleeve. Day 3, I finished part of the other sleeve. And then I didn't finish the sweater in 3 days. I could have probably finished it in 72 hours, but I did not finish it in 3 days. If I did not have kids or anything else to do, I probably could have done it. But realistically for me, 3 days, unless it's a weekend away, I don't see me making this sweater in 3 days, but close. Very fast knit. Yeah, so I can't say more nice things about it. I would say maybe isn't the most size inclusive, but again, it's such a weird, like, to me, it's since it's more of a recipe rather than a pattern, it's really hard to like say. Like you could easily account for other sizes yourself without really needing to do much yourself. So you could add stitches to make it larger and certainly still probably follow the rate of decrease for the neckline and be okay. You just continue to do it like following the largest size, like binding off stitches for the neckline and stuff like that. I think it would be fine. Yeah, so 3-day sweater. I'm really happy I did it. I think it was a fun challenge. I would definitely do it again. And who knows, maybe next year I'll do it with all of the projects that I make this year at the end of the year. We'll see. I've been knitting on a lot of stuff, and one of the projects that I've been working on a lot is my Eva cardigan. I'm not super happy with the way, that I've been knitting this because the flat knitting is really like bothers my hands. And so I decided that once I finished the last ball of yarn that I had, I was going to switch to knitting the sleeves. So I did that and I'm super happy now. Like instantly, soon as I started knitting in the round, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm so happy I'm knitting. Like from, I don't want to pick that up and knit flat. Like I think I'm not the best cardigan knitter, but so last night I finished all of the decreases for the first sleeve. I have a little waist to knit, and then I think it has quite a big cuff to kind of round out the look. And then I have quite a bit more body. I think it's quite a long sweater, so I bet you I still have like this much more to knit before I do, again, the hem. And I believe that the button band and like the hem and all the like finishing kind of touches are either 2x1 or 2x2 ribbing. I already have buttons for this. I really am liking how it turned out. The yarn that I'm using is La Bien Aimée Corey worsted in the colorway Coquelicot. And it is a beautiful like red, orange. Definitely is a tonal yarn. It's like quite solid, but it definitely has some tones throughout it. You can see in the sweater itself that it has some tones, but there's not like heavy pooling or anything. It's very uniform. I really love that fact about hand-dyed yarns having just like that slight variegation, so you can tell that someone took time to make it, but also have it be quite solid. I am right now trying to decide whether or not I should finish the sleeve. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's gonna use all of this or not, or if I should finish the sleeve, go to the second sleeve, or finish the sleeve and try to stomach the body again. I'm afraid a little bit that if I go from one sleeve to the next sleeve, because I'm loving the sleeve so much, who knew Sleeve Island could be so much fun, that I won't want to finish it. But maybe knowing that I'm almost done because I finished all the top of the sweater, it will make me want to. I don't know. That I'm a little concerned about. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So that's kind of my progress on the Eva cardigan. Again, I really like it. I've just been a little bit. Then the other thing that I've been knitting quite a bit is my half and half triangles wrap. I finished the ball of yarn, finally, the first ball, and now I'm just slowly but surely, it's gonna be, the way this is knit, if you're unfamiliar, you knit 2 triangles using short rows. You do 1 triangle using short rows, and then you end up knitting the other triangle, the other side. It's a good mindless knit. It's good for traveling. Because I finished one yarn ball, 1 yarn skein, and I'm on the second one, it's getting like a little bit too much to put into my purse. Like it's getting to be a little bit on the, I don't have a giant purse, but I'll either have to switch purses or not carry this one with me because it's starting to get on the like kind of less manageable side, which had me thinking about some future knits Oh, sorry, real quickly, before I put this away. This color is Super Orange. I plan on holding it with Bright Flamingo, and it's their Pearl Soho's linen quill. The half and half triangles wrap pattern is on their website for free. So go check it out if you don't know much about it. The yarn for this is really nice. It has like, one thing I like about it, which is probably a weird way to describe it, because I don't think yarn is wet. It feels really nice and dry in your hands. Like, is that weird to say? Yarn's not wet, but I don't know. It has like a dry in a good way feeling. I don't know. And it has a nice feel. Like, it's soft and everything, but I always think of linen quill as a dry yarn. I know that's really a weird thing to say, but go with me on it. But it's made me think that I need to cast on a sock soon, because, or even like the penny gloves that I had made for over the winter, because I'm really needing that just like small little tiny project to throw in my bag. Yeah, so I think that is going to be a cast on soon. Like, I need to cast on socks. I keep talking about it and I just haven't done it. I don't know why. I need to. Because I was actually looking at my knits from this past year and previous years, and at the beginning of this year I did a lot of socks, but then I like must have burnt out. So I think it's time. I think it's time to do some socks. Speaking of previous knits, I will be making a video to describe. I'll be doing a video of all the knits that I made last year, so you can look forward to that very soon. And then I wanted to tell you guys, well, let's talk about future cast-ons, and then I want to tell you guys some really fun hack to the iPhone. Okay, so one of the items that I have been like just thinking is such a nice pattern. Like this year I've made so many things and I'm really happy with all of my sweaters that I had knit, but this year I want to do more, not exclusively knitting from stash, but I have noticed that, for example, I have a lot of patterns I've purchased in the past that I really love and I really want to knit those. So I want to prioritize those over brand new knits all the time. So I think I'm gonna do that, because a lot of them I'm like, I've purchased the yarn, I'm ready to go, and I still like just haven't cast them on. So I want to do that. And then a couple of patterns that have just been like swirling around in my mind. One is the Lucretia pullover. This is by Claudia Quintanilla, and I think it's so cute. It has like bell sleeves. It has this beautiful like striped pattern, but it's kind of more than that. In the stripes, there's almost like a little triangle. It's really pretty. I've been thinking a lot about it. Like, it's been on my mind. When she first shared it on Instagram, I thought, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. I really want to knit it. So I'm kind of thinking of that, maybe doing reverse of this. So like black with white. I don't know yet. We'll see. That's been like floating around in there. And then the next one that I've been thinking about a lot is I was reflecting on like knits that I really like to wear. And one that's come up quite a bit is my Hoarfrost sweater by Rachel Ilsley. So I would like to do another colorwork sweater by her. And one that's kind of been on my mind is this antique filigree pattern. It's really pretty. I'm kind of envisioning a darker main color with maybe spin cycle for the colorwork. Or maybe a couple of spin cycle colors. So these have been on my mind a lot lately. I don't know what my next sweater cast on will be. Again, like I said, I have a lot of patterns that I really do want to knit that have been just in the back of my mind. So I don't know. I hopefully will surprise you guys on my next cast on, because I'm gonna surprise myself. I really don't know what it is yet. I have been really looking at finding inspiration in a lot of different places, and recently I had gone to the bookstore near us and had come across this book. Didn't purchase it at the time, and then I had been thinking about it, so I had put it in like just a list on my phone of like maybe books I want to purchase at some point, and happened to randomly, I think I was doing something else and I was like, oh, I should just look to see if this is on sale anywhere. So I typed it in like Google and it came up on sale Amazon, which I don't really like to support, but anyway, who cares? So I found it on Amazon for $18 instead of $50. So if this looks interesting to you, search for it first. And I'll also link this below. Again, it could have just been a random sale, but I thought I would share that with you guys. It is Iris Apfel's, it's Iris Apfel's book called Colorful, and it is so fun to look at. It's so fun. I thought this book would be really fun for color palette ideas. She is such a colorful person, and even just taking in like where she, you know, I don't know if this is where she lives or what it is, but what she's wearing, the room that she's around, her family, or I'm sorry, her and her husband, I guess, had a textile business. And so just every pattern and all these different beautiful colors and everything together, I just find so fun. Like in this picture, she's wearing like a hot pink, a coral, some red, and I could just imagine kind of taking that inspiration and making something with it. So I just thought it was a fun book. It's really beautiful. She has a lot of like about her life, a lot of like nice sayings, find your source, be your own style icon, what makes you happy, and start from there. And just, I just thought it was really fun. Some really beautiful pictures, some older pictures, some newer pictures. And every so often there is a picture of textiles that they, from their company. So like, for example, this around this picture is one of the textiles. So I just thought it was a really fun book. I've gotten a lot of inspiration out of it, and just reading about her life and everything, I just have really enjoyed. So I thought I would share that with you guys, because I thought it was kind of one of those fun things that you might enjoy. And it's a beautiful book. It's beautiful to put on a coffee table. So I don't know. I just thought it was fun. Like, how beautiful is that? So pretty. Like, honestly, every time I flip through this book, I find a new page that I'm like super into. Okay, are you guys ready for my amazing hack? I'm so excited to share it with you. Okay, first of all, I should preface this by saying, I'm gonna show you on an Apple iPhone. I'm gonna show you on an iPhone. And it may or may not work on Android, Google phones, but I bet you it does. Like, this isn't like a special feature that, I'm sure it's not exclusive to Apple by any means. But when I am knitting, the two things that I run into problems that I find all the time are when I go to buy yarn and it's not from the US, and I'm like gonna buy something from wherever and it's in euros, I'm like, oh, how much is that US dollars? Like, how much is the total? I can never find it. So I'm constantly Googling that, like, all of the time. And then the next one is like centimeters to inches. Those are like my two biggest things that like it doesn't stick in my head. I have no idea. Like, I know that 4 inches equal 10 centimeters, but beyond that, like, I cannot keep it in my head. So constantly Googling. This is what I just recently learned. On your calculator on your phone, I'm gonna show you this little trick. So to quickly do it, you just swipe diagonally on your phone and it'll pull up this little thing. Click on the calculator if it's there. If it's not, otherwise just find your calculator. Then I'm gonna type in 124 just for a random number. And let's say we want to know how much 124 euros, how many US dollars is 124 euros? I cannot think today, sorry. So you're gonna click this calculator at the bottom corner, and on the bottom of the screen, it's gonna say convert. So slide that slider over. Remember it's there because you will want to turn it off when you just want a regular calculator. And then you're going to, if it doesn't automatically populate that, which mine's not, mine's in centimeters right now, you're gonna click on that gray thing next to the number. Then you're going to scroll till you hit currency, and then you can type in euro or whatever. And mine went to USD. So that's one way. That's one way we can use it. The next way is if you click on that euro, we want to know what 124 centimeters and inches would be. You just go down to length, click on that, select centimeters to inches. There you go. Guys, this would have saved me so much time. I might be the last person that knows this. Like, it's okay. You guys can comment. Did not know that, or like you're the last to know because this is like something everybody knows but you. That's fine too, because I really was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever found. No one knows it, or everyone but me knows it. I don't know. Anyway, to turn it back, you're going to just click on, you're going to click on the calculator again. So you have a regular calculator, and then you're just going to turn off the convert, and then you're back to the number. So tell me if you knew that hack or not, because I'm really curious. I saw it on like dread scrolling, like doom scrolling, just going, and I randomly came across it and I was like, oh my God, I could use this for knitting things. And I swear I just downloaded an app that was a crappy app that did the same thing, and I wish I would have known I could have. So now you know. This is what knitting besties do for each other. Speaking of knitting besties, real quickly, if you guys want, I'm going to be doing the show notes, the description of the video, the patterns I'm talking about, links to like, for example, for this episode, I'll have a link to this book. If you're interested in purchasing it, it will be an affiliate link. Do whatever you want with that. But I will include all of the links of things I talk about in the videos in a newsletter. So you don't have to write anything down. You don't have to try to remember it, because that is my hardest thing, is trying to remember things. I'm just going to send you an email after I've released a video. So I'll have all the links and everything in there. I'm going to release the video, and I'll send you an email with a link to the video and also a link to all of the things I talk about, so you have it all in one spot to make your life easier. So if you're not signed up for my newsletter, do that. I'll have a link below this video. I also will, of course, link everything below this video. Like, I'm not trying to make your life difficult, but to make it easier, if you want to get that when I release videos, sign up. Okay. Other than that, again, my heart goes out to everybody who is in California right now, dealing with all of that, and all over, really. Like, life is hard, I feel like, for a lot of people right now. So my heart goes out to you guys. I'm always around. Say hi on Instagram if you wish you had someone to say hi to. I always like to say hi back. We've had a lot of stuff going on here. I felt like the amount of stress and anxiety lately has been so high. So while I don't understand that exact scenario, I do understand life is hard. And yeah, my heart goes out to everybody dealing with that. Helping loved ones, all those things. It's very stressful. It's very stressful. Okay, so I make these videos every 2 weeks. If you are not yet subscribed, if you're not my knitting bestie yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and please like this video, because it tells YouTube the other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until 2 weeks from now, make some yarn magic. Bye. Baby, you